68 mid-major show with Sean Paul. I'm with Brian Burton, my co-host. Brian, we're getting real close to this whole thing starting. How are you feeling about it?
Yeah, it's nothing like the start of college basketball. It starts in just a few days. Most teams have either finished all their exhibitions or they will finish it in the next couple of days. So, yeah, this is what it's all about, man.
Definitely. And we have to start it with some not great news, but it's a good talking point because this is a mid-major show, and
Yep.
we get to talk about what the plans are for the NIT. Because not a lot of people watch the NIT. Like, let's be honest, let's call it what it is. Not that many people watch the NIT except for the diehards or people betting on the game. That's about it. But it's a great opportunity for some of these schools like North Texas last year, like UAB last year, like a few years ago when Louisiana Tech had Kenneth Lofton Jr. He
Yep.
really shined on that stage, and now
Yep.
he's in the NBA. So
Yep.
there's a lot of opportunities for these guys to really make themselves known. And now a lot of them are not going to get that opportunity because if you win your regular season league in the OVC, like Morehead State did last year, but you don't win the conference tournament, you're at least awarded a bid
Right.
to an NCAA sanctioned tournament in the NIT. Now that's no longer the case. They're going to change that, and obviously, we can call it what it is. It's for money reasons.
Right.
It's for ratings reasons. Do I think long term this is going to last? Probably not. I think Dan Gavitt kind of hinted at that. Jeff Goodman tweeted that out, that things could change eventually. They just want to get the TV deal thing straightened out because the NIT TV deal is done after this year. So
Yep.
maybe it's a short term fix. But what do you think, as someone who's coached in college basketball at the mid major level? You have multiple chances to play in a postseason tournament, not just the NCAA tournament. And now that's stripped away from guys. How does that feel as a coach?
Yeah, I love this topic. I hate that this is happening, but I love being able to dive into this topic. The first part I'll talk about is the business. We all understand college basketball is a business. So
Mm-hmm.
my understanding of the business right now with this is the contract is up or it's pending. So the television rights of
Mm-hmm.
there's a fight between one big station and another to try to make sure that they can secure the NIT TV rights. So
Mm-hmm.
in order to do so, the bidding got to where they decided they're going to have more major conference teams play in
Yep.
it and less mid-major. So the business side of it is unfortunate. And even when you look at it, obviously we all saw North Carolina turn down an opportunity.
Yep.
It's going to be more. The problem on the high major side is there's going to be more teams turn down bids because they don't really want to play. They may not be motivated to play in it. We all know the portal season is shortened the window now. So once the season's over, if those kids don't plan on going back, they don't want to play more games and play into that. So there's a lot of parts with the high major concept or Power 5 concept of those teams playing that really isn't even what the spirit of the NIT is about. So
Yeah.
for those that don't know, for your great question, being a coach, it's all about winning. The whole reason why you do all the things we do, from recruiting to scheduling to scouting to development to off season, all of it is to win those 30 contests that you have and play in postseason. So if you win a regular season title, it gives you the best chance to have the best seed to get the ultimate one bid league. All the
Mm-hmm.
shows, all the teams we're talking about, all the leagues that we're covering are almost all one bid leagues. So even if you win your conference, you always want to be rewarded, not only just for your conference tournament, but you also want to be rewarded in postseason. So the automatic, for those that don't know the NIT very well, the automatic bid for an NIT was if you win your conference championship and you're a mid-major, you knew you secured yourself a place in a national postseason play. If you
Mm-hmm.
happen to not be able to punch your ticket to the NCAA tournament, okay, cool. Now we're going to the NIT and we're giving ourselves a chance. Like you just said, the Final Four for the NIT was North Texas, who now the head coach has moved to a high major, Graham McCaskey.
Texas Tech. Yep.
Texas Tech. The North Texas
UAB.
Ross Hodge moved up for
Mm-hmm.
winning. Again, you get a chance
Yep.
to win. They won an NIT. So he's now the head coach at North Texas. UAB, Andy Kennedy, they moved to a new league just because it happened to be that way. They moved to the American, so they're in a higher level conference. He's coached Power 5. And then you have Mark Madsen, who is in the Final Four at Utah Valley, who is now the head coach at Cal. all the NIT is a huge stage and huge opportunity, especially if you can make it to the Final Four as a mid-major.
Yeah.
So
And I'll give you one real fast here though. A
please,
couple years ago, Travis Steele was fired from Xavier. Jonas Hayes steps in, leads Xavier to an NIT title. Is he the head coach at Georgia State right now if that doesn't happen? I'm not saying that he wouldn't have ever been a head coach, but if he didn't lead that group of really
yep,
talented players to an NIT bid when they had all the reason to mentally check out, they
yep,
completely cratered down the stretch. Their coach got fired. It would have been totally reasonable. They just didn't try, but they were clearly motivated to win for somebody, and that was Jonas Hayes, and now he's the head coach at Georgia State.
yep.
Like that doesn't that means something because it shows that the NIT has some level of meaning. Even though that's a high major, this has some level of meaning. Michigan last year, they were in the NIT. Do you think Michigan fans really cared? No, they didn't. I mean, college kids would probably show up to watch Hunter Dickinson read a poem. Like, it doesn't matter what he's doing. It doesn't have to be playing basketball. Obviously, he's at Kansas now. But the biggest thing about it is it's basketball, sure, but
Right.
are Michigan fans, are Indiana fans excited when they're in the NIT? No, they're disappointed. Are the players happy? Do they want to be there? No, they're disappointed because they want to be playing in the real thing. I mean, when Texas A&M missed the tournament a couple of years ago, Buzz Williams was reading like a 5-paragraph essay on why Texas A&M should be in the NCAA tournament.
Right.
It just doesn't matter that much. You have guys opting out like Shemezi Metu at USC. I think he was one of the first that opted out. And you have like Romeo Langford last year. I think Bufkin and Jet Howard didn't play in the NIT. There's just so many dudes who don't play because there's not that much worth risking when you're a high major dude that's going to get drafted. It's just not worth it. But if you're a mid major dude and you're trying to transfer up, or this might be your last time ever playing basketball, then you got to do it.
Right. Yeah, it's a game changer for mid majors, and ultimately the model of college basketball. Again, it's about winning. So when you're competing to win, and you've literally been the most consistent team night in and night out to win your conference, people don't understand how hard that is, and to not have an automatic reward to mean your season could be over if you don't make it to the if you don't get that one bid and win the conference tournament. It's just a bad look for college basketball. It sets a bad precedent, and it doesn't even feel good. Nothing about it feels good to
No.
think that. And I think there's some cases where I think about Jamie Dixon when he first got to TCU and they made an NIT run. He had just gotten a job. He's laying a foundation at TCU. He's trying to embed winning into them. Well, it makes sense. Those guys were excited to play in NIT, and they deserved to play in it. They probably were borderline making the NCAA tournament, but ultimately, most of the high majors that have been middle of the pack or that are lower tier, because the way that it's set up, you're not the best high major teams or Power 5 teams are going to the tournament. They're all getting selected, and the ones maybe that's the last 4 in or whatever, like you talked about with A&M or whoever the case may be, they might still be excited to prove a point. Hey, we should have been in the tournament. But anyone that's not even on the bubble, that's just like, hey, we're going to give you this NIT bid, they're ready to move on with their next season. They're ready to move on to the next place. It's just, again, and they haven't won. And I think that's the biggest thing. The mid-majors that win a championship, that's the ultimate prize outside of going to the tournament. The ultimate prize that you can win, that you proved how consistent you were night in, night out. So absolutely hate the idea of it. I think it hopefully will change because it also starts getting the rumors going of, well, wait a minute, is the NCAA tournament going to start taking it? And all those ideas of, is
I don't think so.
basketball going to be squeezed out? I don't think so either, but it just makes you feel like mid-major basketball becomes insignificant. So
yeah, I get that. I don't think that will be the ultimate. I think we're on the same page there. I don't think that'll be the ultimate goal, but I get why people think that. But one person who kind of laid the foundation of what college basketball is without question Coach Bobby Knight. Unfortunately, passed away the other day. He's one of 3 coaches as finishing up NIT talk to win an NCAA title, an NIT title, and an Olympic gold medal. I mean, he's one of the legends of the game. Coach at Indiana for almost 30 years, 902 career wins, 70% winning percentage. Just known, he's Indiana basketball. He's one of the biggest names in the sport. So obviously, rest in peace. Thoughts to the family. But what do you think about Coach Knight's impact on college basketball?
Yeah, I mean, one of the most impactful coaches the game will ever see. not only with his motion offense and winning 3 NCAA titles, won, I believe, 2 more as a player, won a gold medal, like you said, won an NIT, was kind of one of those guys that really understood how good Jordan was. Maybe before Jordan was Jordan, he kind of put the stamp on him. I love the quote where he said he was talking to the Portland GM who was asking
I
him.
saw that, yeah.
He said something along the lines of like, well, Jordan or Bowie, we need a center. He's like, well, then play Jordan at center. I think Knight just had this incredible personality when it comes to the game and how much he loved the game. Obviously, a little bit of controversial how he left Indiana, the throwing the chairs, some of the tantrums. And in that time, in that era where he coached, those things were more acceptable than they are now, clearly. But very polarizing figure, somebody who, if you think about the people he's impacted, one of the best point guards to ever play, Isaiah Thomas, played for him. The all-time winningest coach, and arguably who many people would think is the best coach to coach college basketball, and Coach K is his protege. You got guys like Steve Alford and Mike Woodson, who's the head coach there now. It's just cool to see, even though I think the part where how he was with the media does not represent how his relationships were necessarily with his players. And I can't speak for all of his players. I haven't talked to those guys.
Many loved him. Yeah, most dudes have great things to say.
Celebrate him. If you see the way, that they celebrate even now, and guys like Dusty May, who went to the Final Four last year at FAU, who worked on his staff as a manager, and guys like Chris Beard, who worked under him, and Lawrence Frank, who I think I saw last night talking about him. I mean, everybody that's worked for him, played for him, that I've heard from or heard about or read about, all just sing his praises of the impact that he made on them as a man and as a coach or as a player. So I think that's really ultimately the legacy. And then you think about the motion offense he was big on. I think somebody said this. I was listening to somebody talk about him. He didn't have a bunch of 5 stars. He didn't have, NBA players just rolling through year in and year out. He had some that he coached, but he was doing it and winning national championships with tough, smart, kind of that Indiana Hoosiers basketball that we all grew up watching the movie and the whole nine. So I think lastly, just his offensive and defensive strategy to win and do more with less. He had another quote about what did he say? He said, "Dumb will lose you more games than smart will win you games." He just had a fun way of being able to have fun with the game, and again, a guy who got Texas Tech kind of going on his way out, and I think when he left coaching, he was the all-time winningest coach, I believe.
Believe so, yeah.
So just a lot of things to celebrate. Obviously, again, a somewhat of a controversial figure, but I think the biggest mark is what he left on other coaches and his own players, and how he left the game way better than what he found it. So we salute him and hate that it happened. Condolences to his family and prayers for the Indiana and Bob Knight supporter community.
No question. And let's move on with the mid-major talk here. We're going to go into our mid-major top 25. So what we're regularly going to do is talk about a mid-major top 10 or so probably, but maybe we'll sprinkle in a top 25 here and there. But as everybody does, lists are everything. So we have to do a mid-major top 25 here. I'm just going to rattle through them real fast. On other episodes, we'll have graphics. But for this one, I'm going to read them off and we'll give some thoughts. Number 1, the Drake Bulldogs made the tournament last season. They very nearly ended Miami's season. Tucker DeVries is back, one of the best mid-major players in America. They have some good guards at and right. And Kyron Gibson joining the fold. Ethan Roberts from Army, great shooter. They're going to be a really good team again this season. UC Santa Barbara at number 2. If you haven't checked out the last episode, we interviewed their star point guard, A.J. Mitchell. Check that out. Number 3, Yale, one of the best defenses in college basketball. Number 4, Akron, really good team. Enrique Freeman is a stud down low. And number 5, the College of Charleston won over 30 games last year. They were ranked once upon a time. And anytime you talk about a team in the CAA being a potential at-large team, that team is good. They gave San Diego State a real run for their money last year, and that San Diego State team went to the national championship game. So what do you think about Charleston this season? Can they recreate that success and parlay it into another tournament bid?
Yeah, I think this is what college basketball is all about at the mid-major level, right? You get a chance to have a great year, and can you follow it up and continue the momentum and build on what you have. And Pat Kelsey, in a short amount of time, has just done an incredible job, knows how to win. I've been blessed to see practice of his. We actually hosted an MTE of his first year and got a chance to see him play in 3 different games and coach. Have former players that have played for him, know the staff relatively well, extremely detailed. He does more with D2 and D3 transfers maybe than any Division I coach because he has a formula. He's got a system, he's got a formula, and those guys, not only are they tough as nails, but they might, what does he say? Culture eats strategy for breakfast. So his culture is definitely one of those that's built. He's got the players now. They've done a great job at a mid-major with NIL. So I think they do have a great chance to break through and have continue that momentum and really make a run.
No doubt. I'm telling you, Ante Brezovic, one of the more skilled big men in mid-major basketball. He's going to be in for a huge season. 11 points per game and 19 minutes per game. Hard to beat that level of efficient scoring. Number 6, Furman made the tournament finally last year and had one of the better shots of the tournament. JP Pegues, he's back. Number 7, Grand Canyon, looking to get back to the tournament once again for the 3rd time in 4 seasons. Number 8, Long Beach State. They have a really good core over there. They had Isael Silva from Stanford. Messiah Thompson transfers in. Then they bring back A.J. George, Jadon Jones, the Traore twins down low. They have a lot of talent over there. They will give UC Santa Barbara a real run for their money. Number 9, South Dakota State was Zeke Mayo, the Summit League preseason player of the year. And number 10, as consistent as they come, the Colgate Raiders. Matt Lengel is a great coach. Keegan Records back. Braden Smith back. Ryan Moffitt back. That trio will look to lead Colgate to another NCAA tournament, one of the more aesthetically pleasing offenses to watch in all of mid-major basketball. But I want to ask you about Grand Canyon. They've had a lot of success under Bryce Drew. Does that continue this year?
I think not only does it continue, but I think it takes another step. I think they have a chance of all these teams that you've mentioned. They have as good of a chance as any to actually get into the top 25 next season. I think GCU is going to have a breakout year. They have an incredible home court advantage. They've built a championship culture where they're winning championships and going to the tournament, and they have returning players with added talent from the portal. I just think that GCU and Coach Drew are going to have an incredible year, maybe as special of a year as anyone on this mid-major top 25.
No doubt. Sidney Curry, the transfer from Louisville, he has that JUCO toughness ingrained inside of him. He's going to be a great player in the post for this Grand Canyon team, along with those guards, Ray Harrison, like we talked about last episode, Javon Blackshear. They have a lot going on over there. Moving on, number 11, Northern Kentucky. They've been really good in recent years. Marquise Warwick is turning into one of the better and more consistent scorers at this level of college basketball. Number 12, James Madison. We'll get into them a little bit more later. Number 13, Bradley. Malavi Leones is one of the best and more underrated defenders in college basketball. Brian Wardle just has such a consistent group that defends. All his teams really defend, and it's really an indictment of how good of a coach that man is. Number 14, Wright State, another consistent program. Tanner Holden is back. Trey Calvin is back. And then you have Brandon Noel, who I think is going to be the next great big man under Coach Nagy. And the number 15, UNC Asheville. So I'm going to want you to elaborate a little bit more here on Wright State. You've coached in that league. What does it take to win the Horizon League? And can Wright State really do it again?
Yeah, I think between Wright State and Northern Kentucky in that same league, in that same little pod right there, shows a lot about where the Horizon is. Tanner Holden coming back, I think, is a huge thing for Wright State, being able to play, kind of test the waters, but had an incredible NCAA tournament, which is why he was able to go to the next level and decide, you know what, I'm going to go back where I can be a big-time player at a big-time program and see if we can go do it again. So I think both those programs at the top have that, again, championship pedigree. They've been there, done that. The staffs have done it. Players in the program have done it. So I think it's going to be a big-time league in the Horizon this year at the top. But also, I like Bradley. I like what they did last year. I think that they give Drake kind of that same kind of a back and forth of tug of war of Drake is obviously at the top. Bradley's been really consistent and really good as well. Championship contender type program. So looking forward to seeing that battle in the Missouri Valley as well.
No doubt. Moving on here, number 16 again, as consistent as they come, Vermont. They just have a stranglehold on the America East. No matter who's competing with them, it just always seems like they find a way when it matters to win in the biggest moments. They've lost some great pieces like Anthony Lamb and Ryan Davis throughout the years. Dylan Penn is now gone. Finn Sullivan is now gone. But they reloaded with TJ Long from Fairfield, Brenton Mills coming over from Bowling Green, Jace Rockamore, a skilled wing slash guard coming over from UC San Diego. They get Matt Barreto back. He should be really good this season. Vermont is just really good, and they're coming in at number 16. Number 17, Eastern Kentucky. Devontae Blanton is an absolute stud scorer. He's an NBA prospect. He could find his way in the league. Number 18, Liberty. Again, really consistent program, but they're moving up conferences, going to Conference USA. We saw a team go to the Final Four from that league just last season. Maybe Liberty has a run in their bones. Number 19, we're going with Hofstra. They've gotten close throughout the years again to the tournament. They won that regular season bid a few years ago, but COVID didn't allow them to play in the NCAA tournament. Maybe they'll get there this year. And number 20, we got UNC Greensboro. What do you think about Hofstra out of that group? How do you feel about the Pride and Speedy Claxton?
Yeah, there's a few that stick out to me in this group, and all of them are really good. I think you spoke well about Vermont. They're pretty elite. I can definitely see them climbing the ranks in this poll. But Hofstra, Coach Claxton's done a terrific job. Loses Aaron Estrada, who was the player of the year in the league, but they just kind of have reloaded. He's done a great job with building the culture. He's a guy who's played there, takes pride in that place. So keep an eye on Hofstra, absolutely, kind of having a chance to build on their momentum as we talk about momentum of a program. And I think that the intriguing one you mentioned too is Liberty going to Conference USA and having a chance to get out of their league and seeing how they're going to do kind of in a different style of conference and a higher level competition of conference. And then UNCG, I think also is a program. Again, a lot of these programs are traditionally teams that have won their conference, have had postseason play. So excited to see what all these teams kind of do in that middle of the pack, because usually there's somebody that emerges that starts lower in the top 25, whether it's on the major poll or whether it's on a poll like this in the mid-majors. You mentioned FAU, plenty of others that can go in that category, but teams that you're not expecting, there's normally breakout players and breakout teams. I wouldn't be surprised if there's one from that pack.
Yeah, for my money, I'm going to say that's probably Vermont. It's just the way that they're able to be consistent no matter what they have on the roster. It's such a good culture. That's a buzzword in college sports, culture, culture, culture. But it really is something there. John Becker is comfortable there in Burlington. He just keeps winning. He's reloading from the portal. He finds guys that are going to fit his system. And like a guy like TJ Long, he can absolutely stroke it from outside. He averaged 10 a game at Fairfield. Wouldn't surprise me if he's like a 12-point per game guy. Matt Barreto, he could be one of the better players in that league. He's a skilled big man. I just love what Vermont has, and it's hard not to love their level of consistency. It's just so impressive to win year in and year out like that. But moving on here to a team that could get to that level, it's going to be Milwaukee under Bart Lundy. They've been impressive. BJ Freeman, he was terrific to end the season at a 43-point game in the CBI, one of the better scorers on this list without a question. Yep. We're going with another team here right behind them in the Horizon League, Youngstown State. They really burst onto the scene last year. Jared Calhoun got some looks for the West Virginia job, but he reloaded in the port a little bit, lost some pieces. Dwayne Cohill is gone. Adrian Nelson is gone, but he brings in Brett Thompson from Tennessee Tech, Ziggy Reed from Merrimack, DJ Burns, who was a starter for that Murray State team that was a single-digit seed a couple of years ago. They should be really solid once again. Brandon Rush also could be their leading scorer. Then we have UNC Wilmington. Takeo Siddle is just a winner. That's what he does. He churns out 20-win seasons like it's nothing. 24, UC Irvine. Bent Lloydston, a 7-footer that can absolutely stroke it from outside. He's gotten so much better from the first day that he stepped on campus at UC Irvine. He is one of the best bigs in the Big West. I think Big Bent has a 15, 16-point per game season in him this season. And then number 25, Western Carolina, a lot of UNC schools, but Western Carolina this time, Vontarius Woolbright is one of the more unique point guards in college basketball. 6'6". He's not afraid to back you down. He's not a shooter, but he's going to pass it. He's going to get in that lane and make things happen. Tell me what you think about the Catamounts.
Yeah, I mean, Western Carolina, you talk about a coach that's done a great job and Coach Gray to make that jump of a program that again, when you inherit a program, usually your coach before you was really good and he
Mhm.
moved on because he got a better job, or they just weren't having the success. Well, I'm going to say that they weren't good. They just weren't having the success. And he inherited a program that was not having very much success. So to be in the top 25 in a mid-major poll gives a ton of credit to him and his staff and what he's been able to establish there. Again, was a part of that staff at Winthrop with Coach Kelsey, so probably taking some of that toughness from there, played at a high level himself. So I love to see the coaches that can come in and make that kind of imprint, because the players that you mentioned, point guard included, those guys were recruited to play because of that coaching staff. So I love that choice. And then UNCW, we talk a lot about College of Charleston, but UNCW is a team that could very well be in the NCAA tournament and will be right there as it was tooth and nail last year. I
They
don't
almost were last year.
I
Yeah.
don't expect it to be any different this year, that it's going to come down to those two teams to go to the NCAA tournament and to win the regular season championship. And then lastly, we talked about two of the top teams in the Horizon, but to have four teams preseason in the top 25 mid-major in the Horizon. And then you mentioned last year's surprise team may even be IUPUI to make a breakout, to just get into that conversation of being more middle of the pack, competing. It's going to be some great basketball on the Horizon this year. And yeah, that's our mid-major top 25.
And the main reason why we decided to include that many Horizon League teams is because the margin between Northern Kentucky and Wright State and Youngstown State, Milwaukee just feels so razor thin. Like any one of those teams could be number one. I feel like whoever wins is going to be like a game apart. It's going to be super close. Obviously, I lean with the talent of a Northern Kentucky or a Wright State, the consistency of Wright State, of Northern Kentucky, the talent of Wright State. But you also have those pieces. You have great coaching, of course, at all schools, but Milwaukee with Bart Lundy, he's been a winner at the D2 level. Now he's here at Milwaukee at a 20-win season last year. Youngstown State, another team that runs a really efficient offense. They're kind of similar to Milwaukee in that way, more of an offensive centric team. I think both those schools are in for really big seasons. I really like what they have. But now it's time to move on to our conference picks. Let's get into each conference here, starting with the America East. I
I
already
was gonna,
touched a little bit on.
I'm going to rewind on you real quick. Let's do a
Oh,
real
right.
No, you're good. Let's do a real quick head
Yeah.
coach. One head coach to watch. I know you like one in particular. I know you like many, but one in particular we
There's
talked
some
about.
good ones out there.
Yeah, definitely, absolutely, and I think that's what this is all about: is seeing guys be able to get new homes and new places. But you have a person in the WAC, new job, not GCU, but a place that's used to winning and winning conference championships. Who's your pick for one of the coaches to watch first year?
I mean, it was only 2 seasons ago where New Mexico State was winning an NCAA tournament game against UConn, who then the next season went on to win the national championship. And what happened last year at New Mexico State, that's going to go down as one of the more just tragic seasons in college basketball just because of everything that happened with the Mike Peake situation. Then you have the hazing incident. That was just a complete embarrassment. But New Mexico State is on to a new chapter under Jason Hooten. And I think big things are going to happen because he was a consistent winner at Sam Houston State. He was really good with them in the Southland, had a Southland Player of the Year in Zach Nuttall. He transferred to SMU eventually. But he then moves on to the WAC, and he still stayed competitive there. I mean, last year they went to the NIT and won a couple games. He's now at New Mexico State. He has some solid
Player of
players.
the year as well.
Mm-hmm. And he went and hit the portal. He got some dudes. Brandon Suggs coming in. Davion Bradford. I don't think he's quite eligible. Same with Femi Odekale. But he went in and got a bunch of dudes from the portal. Keosi Eziagu came with him from Sam Houston State. I think they're going to be a really tough team because that's how his teams play. They're tough. They defend. That's what they did really well last year. Got him to the NIT. Quake Grant was a great player. I don't think they're going to win the conference. I think they're picked last. But I think they're more near the middle of the pack just because of the way he coaches. That's a really good program. It's a really good fan base. We're going to forget eventually what happened last season. I think it'll take some time for that stain of that just complete abomination to go away. But eventually, New Mexico State will get back on track, and it will be under Jason Hooten. They'll probably be a 500-ish team this year, but in the next 2-3 years, if they're in the NCAA tournament, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, I mean, just did a as outstanding of a job as you can speak of at Sam Houston State. Big time success there, like you said. I mean, the best indicator of future success is past success, and Coach Hooten has been a model of success at Sam Houston State, winning tons of championships as far as the Southland Conference go, and again was at the top of the WAC and competing as well. I believe that they had a weird seeding last year, but I believe that they
They hosted.
they did end up hosting. And
Yeah, I think Oklahoma State was it? Was it Oklahoma State? Whoever they were playing. No, maybe it wasn't Oklahoma State. Whoever they were playing, I think had like something going on at their arena. Is that what happened? Was that them or was that Youngstown? I don't remember. Something like that happened.
yeah, well, they were 14-4 last year in conference play in the WAC, 26-8, had the player of the year. Yeah, I just think he's going to do an outstanding job, and it was the right hire for New Mexico State and the right move for him. He's done as much as he could do at Sam Houston State. Won, almost 300 games in his time there. So excited for him to get a new beginning at New Mexico State and kind of get back to those winning ways. And yeah, similar. Another one with another coach with past success that is a great indicator for future success. I'm going with Corey Gibson at Austin P. Some people may say lightning in a bottle, may say whatever you want, but to go from being a mid-major, the part I love about his story, I got a chance to get to know Coach quite a bit last year. Got to broadcast some of his games in the Southland Conference and see it up close. And the part I love about the story is a mid-major assistant coach getting a head coaching opportunity and doing so well in his first year, beat TCU early on and got the nation's attention when they were in the top 25, got a win that, normally doesn't usually happen at that level very often. Stephen F. Austin did beat Duke at one point in time, and Underwood had a great stretch when he was there and others, but very rarely do you see a team beat a top 25 like that early on, especially at a team that didn't have success. And I love DeMarcus Sharp, who came with him from Missouri State. Not to mention Black.
Loyal.
Oh man, they got some real relationships there. So I love what he's done. I love what he's about as far as his staff and building a culture to do it that quickly. And I think he's going to do the same thing. Austin P played at Austin P, so that place means a lot to him. And you have a bunch of players coming from Northwestern State, including Hanson Emmanuel himself, who is he categorizes he may be one of the best defenders he's ever coached. And I'm excited to see what they do, and I think he's going to do an outstanding job, just like he did last year, and put Austin P on the map.
No question. The name to watch here for Austin P is Des White, a freshman, also from the state of Missouri. Shot 48% from three last year in high school. He can defend. He's a really good scorer. Went 4 for 10 from three in their exhibition the other day against Tennessee Tech. That's a D1 program they played in the OVC, and they won that game by like 50. I know Austin P doesn't have the front court pieces you necessarily want, but when you have guards like Jamonta Black, DeMarcus Sharp, Desi Jones coming in from Quinnipiac, and Des White, those four probably playing together a lot of the time, they're going to win you some games. I know the defense might not be great. I know the rebounding is going to be a problem. But when you have four guards that can go like that, you're going to win some games in college basketball because all four of those dudes can shoot it. Most of them can defend, and they're all skilled enough to handle the basketball. I'm expecting really improved things from Austin P this season. I don't think they're going to win the conference, but if they're fifth in the league, fourth in the league, it wouldn't surprise me. They just have too much talent.
Yeah, and again, that name, I like their entire roster, but DeMarcus Sharp is a special player.
Dog.
Yeah, 19 points a game last year, and it can absolutely really be a game changer for them. So, yeah.
Could have went to Mizzou, but he went to Austin P. Like, that tells you what you need to know.
Anywhere he wanted in the portal, probably.
He turned away Dennis Gates. Dennis Gates wanted him. He turned him away to stay with Corey Gibson and go to Austin P. That's pretty unique. You don't get that often.
No question. Yeah, we'll get to the conference outlooks. Let's start with the America East. Is that where we're starting?
Yeah, let's start with the America East here. I already spoke pretty in depth about Vermont, but what else could you possibly say? They're in the tournament virtually every season. Doesn't really matter who they lose because you know they're going to find dudes who can replace them. John Becker is one of the best coaches in college basketball. I will gladly die on that hill because when you can win 25-plus games every season pretty much, you deserve that kind of respect. I think they're going to be right back in it once again. What are your thoughts on the America East? So what stands out to you?
Yeah, I mean, I think you talked about it. You don't want to necessarily have a broken record, but until somebody's able to really take down and slay the giant of Vermont, I think that's really the flagship of the conference. UMass Lowell did have a breakout season last year, winning 26 games and gave some great competition. And Bryant has been one of the more talented teams in the league. I do like the idea. I believe John Gallagher, if I'm not mistaken, did take a job in.
Manhattan.
Is it in this league? No, excuse me.
No, it's in the MAC with two A's.
Forgive me on that one. I was close. But yeah, I think Vermont is the team to beat. I think they're the team to watch. I think until somebody else proves that they can kind of be on that level, they've been so dominant. I don't think there's a lot else to talk about in this one other than them. I do think one of the storylines is that Chris Markwood has done a great job in his first season over at Maine, and they may be the dark horse in the league to kind of make a second jump.
That's a good call. Kellen Tynes, really good player. Mark Wood's a good coach. That again is alma mater. I think he's gonna do a really good job there at Maine. One last touch on this conference here. Albany, I think they're going to be pretty solid this season. Much improved from what they were recently. Sebastian Thomas coming in from Rhode Island. They have a really good player, and Jonathan Beagle could be one of the better front court players in this league. If his shooting improves, he can pass it, he can rebound. He's really tough to stop inside. He's got decent quickness for his 6'10", 240-pound frame. He's a big name to watch in this league. Pay attention to Jonathan Beagle. Entered the portal, decided to come back. Moving on to the Atlantic Sun Conference, I'm going with Eastern Kentucky to win the thing. Obviously, Liberty's leaving. Kennesaw State lost a lot of pieces. They lost their head coach to South Florida, Amir Abdur-Rahim. What A.W. Hamilton has over there is a really good scorer in Devontae Blanton. Like I said, he could be a guy that plays in the NBA because when you're 6'6", when you're athletic, when you can shoot the basketball, you're going to get some looks at the next level. And that's all things that Devontae Blanton has in his game. And then you have a guy down low in Isaiah Kozar, who's a double threat every night, a dominant rim protector. I'm expecting Eastern Kentucky and their really high octane offense to be really good this season. What are you thinking from the A-Sun?
Yeah, and Devontae from Eastern Kentucky should be the player of the year. So I think that always puts you in a position that you can beat anybody on any given night. And winning 23 games last year, they have a great opportunity to, again, we talk about this a lot, or I mentioned a lot, just building on that momentum. When you have returners and you have continuity and you know what it takes to win, it's really hard, especially at the mid-major level, when you can get those really good players to come back to school. Man, it makes such a difference. Yeah, I think Florida Gulf Coast is on the heels a little bit of where Eastern Kentucky is, but I love what Bellarmine has done in their time in Division One. So I would just say always keep an eye on Bellarmine. I love their style of play, the way that they've been able to have success way more than anyone expected to this point. I would not count them out. And Stetson's also had some good success. And I think, Kennesaw State, they don't have the same roster. Obviously, coach left. They made a great hire for their new head coach. So I would also keep an eye on them because they do have that winning pedigree now.
I'll also add, we talked about Austin P. I think Corey Gibson's going to get things going there in pretty quick fashion. But Scott Davenport, we need to give that man some more respect. He doesn't get talked about enough nationally, and obviously it's only been 3 seasons for Bellarmine at this level. But they were a NCAA tournament team 2 years ago. If the stupid D2 transition rule wasn't a thing, they won the conference tournament. Like, this man deserves some more respect, don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely. And they got a guard, Garrett Tipton, who's a big time player for them. And again, just their style of play is one of those styles of play that's difficult to guard. They're going to play tough. They're going to be smart. They're not going to beat themselves. So we've already talked about Austin P. I do think DeMarcus Sharp is going to be one of the best players in that league. But yeah, those are kind of the people that stick out the most to me. And yeah, look forward to kind of seeing if there's some new surprises.
Moving on to the Big Sky. Last time on this show, we talked about how good Dylan Jones is. We obviously know that's the case. That's why I'm going with Weber State to win the conference. Montana State's going to look a little bit different this year as their head coach, Danny Sprinkle went to Utah State. Montana's a team not to take lightly, though. I think they'll still have a say in whatever happens here, even though Josh Bannon went to go play professionally over in Australia. Deshaun Thomas, of Colorado State fame, is back. He averaged double-digit points last season. Aiden Moody is one of the best guard scorers in this conference, 15 points per game, over 40% from three. Brandon Whitney is back. That's another name to watch. So they return a lot of their core from last year outside of Bannon. That is a team that I think could really compete with Weber State. But what are you thinking over there in the Big Sky? What's your big takeaway from this league?
Yeah, Montana State not being there definitely changes things a lot. Obviously, Coach Sprinkle moving on had some tremendous success at his alma mater. Dylan Jones, we've talked about. I think he is the best player in the league. But you mentioned Moody. I do think he's probably the second best player in this league.
Mm-hmm.
Is Montana. Yeah, I think it gives Montana a chance to compete and be right there with them. Their head coach, Travis DeCure, has won as much as anybody in that conference as far as being kind of one of the mainstays as far as head coaches. And I think he's definitely, as everyone is trying to adjust to this new transfer portal age in the mid-major level, I think Montana is a team that's going to be right there to be able to compete with Weber State. And then I think David Patrick's done a terrific job everywhere he's been as a head coach. I think he's a terrific assistant coach, obviously well-regarded recruiter and X&O mind. He's a guy who could kind of sneak in and make a big jump with Sacramento State to be somebody who maybe even be on the coach of the year kind of list. And then Eastern Washington, I don't think you can count them out winning 23 games.
You can't, no.
No, excuse me. So I think Eastern Washington is crazy to think that a little bit they're underdog, being that they did what they did last year in this conference. But I think definitely keep an eye on them. And I'm biased towards my guys over at Northern Colorado being right here. I used to call their games. Steve Smiley, I think, is as good of a coach as there is in this league. So they lost Dalton Connect, who we've all seen with his highlights over at Tennessee. But
stud, yep.
And they lost Dalen Kuntz also, who was also one of the best scorers, the leading scorer, I believe, the year before. So they've had some individual talent that's been really good to play one-on-one, but I think they have more ball movement, player movement, more of a collective, cohesive group. So I definitely think they'll finish higher than they're projected at 8. But yeah, I always love the Big Sky just because of the, that history of some of the guards and some of the tournament and success. Weber State kind of being back on the map, but Damian Lillard in Milwaukee just kind of feels right.
No question. Finishing thoughts here from me. Portland State's a team that's different than just about everybody else in this conference because their guard play is not great on paper, which a lot of teams in this league, they have really good guard play, but they have a lot of size, which is going to play a factor in this league. Trayvon Minot coming over from South Carolina, 6'9", big dude. He's going to be a factor for this team. And KJ Allen transferring over from Texas Tech. If you watched Last Chance U like 3-4 years ago, he was one of the stars of that team. Very soft-spoken guy, but he is an athletic freak. He's going to be one of the more athletic dudes in this league. He was a really good get for Jace Coburn over there at Portland State. I'm expecting solid things from them. They're just tough as nails. I think they're going to be a tough out every single night just because of the style they play, that defensive toughness. They might not have the guard talent that some other teams in this league have, but they have an identity and a toughness that's tough to beat.
Yeah, now we move to the next league, which is the Big South.
Big South.
What's your thoughts on? Obviously, UNC Asheville is the top dog in this league. They returned the best player in the league in Drew Pember. Pretty incredible to think that he went back to school. Another big-time recruiting job by that staff to be able to bring back a player of that caliber that could play really on any roster in the country. Can they repeat, and who else do you like in this league?
They're going to repeat in my mind, no question. Drew Pember is one of the best players in America. If there's anybody on this list that could end up being an All-American on the national list, it might be Drew Pember. 20 points per game, 9 boards, can shoot it at a 37% clip from outside, blocked over 2 shots per game. I called him this a couple of years ago, and I'm going to stick with it. The mid-major Chet Holmgren. I said that when those were both in college. But I think Drew Pember has a lot of those similar skills in his game. Obviously not going to be as highly touted in the NBA, but he can handle it. He can shoot it. He can block shots. He's a really skinny dude, but he just makes things happen. He's super skilled for his size. And then Mike Morrell added some key pieces from the portal like Josh Banks coming over to shore up that defense. Greg Gant coming over from NC State. Nick McMullen is back. He's a key piece of that team. The guard play is going to be important, but you get Caleb Burgess back. He should be a good player for them. Evan Johnson coming in via the transfer portal. Davion Cunningham is a guy that seems to be a piece that they will focus on here in the future. I think UNC Asheville is going to repeat once again. It's going to be their league to lose. And the fact that I'm saying that with what Mike Morrell walked into when he went there, I think his first year he won like 4 games. That program was a complete mess. They lost to Maceo Teague and Dylan Smith, who both transferred to high-end programs. Yep. And Mike Morrell was able to get them to a consistent point where they're winning 20 games a year. They're going to compete for a tournament bid every season. A lot of that can be attributed to Drew Pember, but that dude is not at UNC Asheville without Mike Morrell, and he is one of the more underrated coaches at this level and one to watch this summer as the coaching carousel heats up.
Yeah, and former staff member with Shaka Smart, and obviously we all know what Shaka's success rate is and what his cultures are about and what he's about as a man. So you got to give, like you said, you got to give Morrell credit in what he's built, because they were not good when he arrived.
No,
not an easy place to ever inherit when you don't win right away and you're coming into a program that wasn't good. But to get them to a championship level and to have one of the best players, as you put it, even in the country, to be able to come back to a place like that says a ton. He's a player of the year. He's a defensive player of the year type of dude and just a dominant force. I like Radford in this league. DeQuan Smith, I think, along with just the backcourt, Brian and Twan, I believe that's how you say that. Just love the
Villanova transfer.
Yeah, just love the talent and the way that Coach Nichols has been able to build his program the same way. And I think they're a team that's going to be able to give UNC Asheville a chance and a run for their money. They won 21 games last year, and they're building that winning pedigree and that makeup of understanding what it takes to win, and now they want more. Normally, when you win to a certain level and you can get to certain peaks in your winning and in your goals
development,
in your development and your goals that you set as a new program, you just want more. And he has guys back. He's got talent. So they're going to be really good. And then Winthrop is talented, deep, and they have a chance to also compete for that top spot. I think the intriguing one is Allen Huss at High Point, coming from Creighton and his success that he's had with high-level offenses and skilled guys and just winning, period. So that one will be an intriguing one because they're not one that people are talking about as much. But I think that the way that when you bring in a new coach, there's going to be a new style of play and kind of some of that new excitement and energy. Be curious to see how well they do in year one.
Can also give a shout out to Longwood. I think Griff Aldrich, he's done a terrific job there. They're in the tournament a couple of years ago. Waylon Napier is back, one of the best point guards in that league. Elijah Tucker coming in via the portal. And then you also have Michael Christmas, who missed a lot of time with injury last year. He could be a real piece for this team that averages double figures as a versatile multi-positional forward. I think he'll be a really good piece for this team. They should be somewhat competitive in this league. Once again, Aldrich is a great coach. Expect Longwood to be in the mix without a doubt. Moving on to the next league, we got the Big West going back out to the West Coast. Yes. UCSB, we talked about them plenty last episode. What are your thoughts on this conference?
Yeah, UCSB is the team with the player. I mean, there's no doubt about it. They are the people that everyone has to catch. It's a lot of exciting new faces in the league, along with some of those that have been there. I mean, Cal State Fullerton's been to that championship game, into the tournament, and they're never usually picked to finish high, but they always kind of find a way. Dedrick Taylor's got some magic that he's been able to produce there. Been in 3 championship games, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, and went to 2 NCAA tournaments. So he's done an impressive job. And then I think Mike Magpayo, coach of the year last year, won in 22 games, having one of the more successful seasons in UC Riverside history, has got some guards, he's got bigs, he's got a style of play, and he's got a really efficient way that he coaches and gets the most out of these guys. And you mentioned Long Beach State earlier in that preseason top 25. And then I think hopefully CSUN will have a chance to, with a new coach and a proven winner in Andy Newman, who's moved up.
They need a new coach, that's for sure. They need a new one.
You said they do need a new one, or they
needed a new one for sure.
Yeah, sometimes that new blood is what you need in, and somebody who's a proven winner at a lower level that's also in um, that California region. So I'm curious to see what they're able to do. But again, there's so many good teams in this league. You mentioned Riverside earlier. Hawaii's in the league as well. So this is a fun league that I think every year is really wide open. Even though UC Santa Barbara was the breakout team last year and they've had success prior, it kind of rotates who ends up going to the tournament, punching their ticket, winning the regular season. It's about as wide open of a league every year as you can find, and a lot of breakout teams. So I'm excited to see it. There's more 20-win teams in that league than we've seen in a long time last year. So a really competitive basketball league at the top.
One that I'm going to say to keep an eye on here is Hawaii. It's tough to play in the Stan Sheriff Center. That's a long travel for a lot of these teams.
Yep.
And there's nothing better than flipping on ESPN Plus or Spectrum Sports or whatever they play on at 12 p.m. Eastern Time, seeing Hawaii against CSUN or whoever they're playing. There's nothing quite like it because it's the only thing on. It's really like the Super Bowl, to be honest with you. So what Hawaii has, though, is a really good coach in Aaron Gannett, who's just a consistent winner. And he has a lot of good players this year. Noel Coleman back. He's their alpha scorer, smooth lefty. But when it's late in the game, there's nothing more consistent than late game Jovan McClanahan. It always seems like he's getting to that mid range and hitting a big shot when it matters. That man has ice in his veins. I'm expecting another big season from him. He may not do anything statistically that jumps off the table. He's not averaging 20 a game. He won't be their leading scorer. But in the late game spot, there's very few dudes in this league I'd rather have with the ball in his hands. And then when you look at the veterans on this team, this is a team with like 7 or 8 seniors. And when you have that amount of veteran leadership, when you have that amount of experience on a team, it's almost like you have multiple coaches on the floor. I think Hawaii is going to be really competitive in this league. Obviously, that home court advantage plays a role, but they have some talent too. Bernardo da Silva is an absolute load to handle inside. Justin McCoy, he played in a national championship game with North Carolina. I think he'll be a factor here. They're not more talented than UCSB. They're not more talented than some of the other teams in this league. UC Davis is another really talented one with T.Y. Johnson and
Right.
Eli Pepper. But Hawaii is going to be a factor because of those two guards and their play inside with McCoy and Da Silva.
Yeah, well said. Well said. I look forward to watching the competitive play in that league. And then as another competitive league with 6 programs leaving the league, Conference USA, brand new league, UAB, North Texas, FAU leaving as the kind of
Out
the
of there.
powers going to the American, and now welcomes, ASUN, former powerhouse in the ASUN Liberty, who's picked to win by my colleague here to win that league. And we talked about Jason Hooten having to fill 13 new scholarships. Western Kentucky hires Steve Lutz. That's definitely a big storyline there. Had tremendous success at Texas A&M and everywhere he's been as an assistant coach. So I love what Western Kentucky did with that hire. And then, you got some of the people retaining and then staying in this league. La Tech, Middle Tennessee, UTEP, FIU, all want to have their chance as those other teams are out of the league. So who stands out to you in this league, and what are you looking forward to?
If Daniel Baccio can get that waiver, I think La Tech has a chance to win this league over Liberty. That front court play is going to be dominant with Baccio, the way he's able to defend inside. He's going to be a presence on the offensive end more so than he was at Texas Tech, where he was already one of the better post defenders in the Big 12. And then you have Isaiah Crawford, who's more of that stretch player that can shoot the ball from outside. He's 6'6", like 220. He's going to be a really good player in this league. He was picked as the preseason player in the league. He was on that team with Kenneth Lofton Jr. Like, he's been here, he's done that. He's ready to bring Louisiana Tech to an NCAA tournament. But for this team, it comes down to guard play. What are you going to get from Talik Chavez coming over from Charleston Southern, Tyler Henry from Southern Indiana, Jordan Turner from Baylor? If those guys can find a way to all combine to average 25 points per game, somewhere around there between 3, have someone that can set the table for your really stud big men, Crawford and Baccio, if he gets a waiver, then I think Louisiana Tech has a chance. That guard play concerns me, but if they could find a way to get enough from their guards, those big men can carry them.
Yeah, and going to need some outside shooting. And I think sometimes just having that clean house is important in terms of some of the players that were there. And it's just a good for Coach Hester to be able to have his own stamp on this team. Isaiah Crawford, a guy he recruited back when he was an assistant, and did a great job evaluating. Talk about a guy who can evaluate talent as well. And Talvin Hester, he did a great job. No one even really recruited Isaiah Crawford. Now he's the preseason player of the year, and he gets a chance to coach him as a head coach. Same guy that brought in Kenneth Lofton Jr. So definitely, I don't expect Louisiana Tech to be anything short than championship contenders in this league, but this league will be good. As usual, you have really good coaches. You got 9 teams in this league. It's not quite as many teams as there were in the league, but Western Kentucky, we talked about Middle Tennessee, definitely Sam Houston State, a new team in the league as well. Joe Golding at UTEP still. So there'll be a lot of competitive play in the league, and just kind of looking forward to seeing the new look league and what it ends up becoming.
The Horizon League, very top heavy. We talked about that already. You have that clear top 4 with Youngstown State, Milwaukee, Northern Kentucky, Wright State. A lot of talent in this league, some really good coaches, some that are more offensive focused, some that are more defensive focused. Northern Kentucky and Wright State look like the clear top 2. That's going to be my main thoughts on it because we got into this league already pretty much. But what do you think? Any expanded thoughts on beyond what we already spoke about?
Yeah, I think Cleveland State's the only team we didn't really dive into a lot.
That's true. Tristan Anaroon is a stud.
Yes, absolutely. And Coach Daniel Robinson's done a great job in year 1, being able to, again, just get some footing under him. 21-14 in first year, 14-6 in the league. I think Cleveland State is definitely a team. We know what Dennis Gates did when he was there. I think it's been underrated, the job that Robinson's done in his first year. So I think one of those teams that can definitely compete as well. And I think anytime you got a guy like the veteran over at Oakland, you can't count those guys out as well. And Coach Campy, but we did. I don't want to say skip over, but we'll go CAA next.
We did skip over them.
Talk a little bit.
Learning the alphabet is big. I got to work on that for sure.
No, as teamwork makes the dream work, man. We've talked a lot about the top 2 teams, Charleston and UNC Wilmington. Who else in this league do you like? We mentioned Hofstra a little bit earlier. We did not talk about Drexel, Delaware, Towson. What's some of the other teams that stick out to you?
Drexel's a good team. I like what Drexel has going on there. They were in the tournament not too long ago, like 3-4 years ago. I expect them to finish probably in the top 4 of this league. They have some good pieces returning with Lamar Odin. Mate Okros going to be another good player. Justin Morris, another team that has an identity of they're going to be tough. They're going to defend. They don't have the most talent in this league, but they are going to have to win games their way, which I think could set them back a little bit from a team like the College of Charleston. And I think they have a similar identity to what UNCW has, but I think they have it in a lesser sense. But they do have a stud player with Amari Williams, who's going to be one of the better players in this league. And if they're going to get where they could win a conference tournament title, they're going to have to heavily rely on Amari Williams. I don't know how else they're going to get a lot of scoring without him doing a lot of that work. So that's my biggest concern with them. But I think Drexel, outside of that main top 3, is the team that I would really look at here.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about a high-level mid-major basketball conference. Charleston last year, 31-4. UNC Wilmington, 24-10. Hofstra won the regular season at 25-10. Towson wins 21 games. I mean, you talk about a league that is really, really good at the top. And Drexel and Delaware 17 wins in the league. So really good basketball conference. If you're about mid-major hoops, you definitely want to stay tuned into this one, because as good as Charleston is, and as special of a year as they had last year, there's a very good chance that because this league is so good and it is a one-bid league, it makes it a lot harder when you talk about having these other teams that can compete, like UNCW, like Hofstra, like Drexel.
They're going to eat each other alive for sure. It's going to be brutal.
High-level basketball. And the problem with this, a league like this, is it doesn't get almost like what Conference USA was last year with the North Texas, with an FAU, with the UAB. I mean, all those teams were in the same conference last year, beating each other up, and you almost couldn't evaluate how good FAU or North Texas or UAB was because they were beating each other up. But when the postseason happened, now you got to see FAU go to the Final Four, and those two teams North Texas and UAB going to the NIT championship. So I think this league is very similar to that, as some high level basketball, and anyone that comes out of this league is going to be ready to make a run when it comes to March.
There's nothing like some Friday night Ivy League hoops. It's always exciting, but this league is unique because the top 4 teams are the ones that get into the conference tournament. Not every single team is going to get in the conference tournament for the Ivy League, so it's something that really matters if you're able to get there. I'm going to go with Yale. That defense is too good. Princeton deserves a shout out, though. They're losing Tosan Iwoma, one of my favorite college players ever, an absolute stud. But they're losing him, Ryan Langborg. They lose some key pieces from that team. They open up against Rutgers in the rack. That's going to be a tough one. Matalako coming back, though. Caden Pierce, he could average a double-double this season. Devin Austin, Xavier Lee, 2 really good guards. So they'll be competitive, but Yale is the class of this conference this year. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with you. Princeton will want to have something to say about it. Both teams 10-4 last year in the league. Princeton made that magical run that they made in the tournament. So anytime you have that kind of nostalgia around a program and that kind of experience, I'm definitely thinking that they're the team at the top with Yale, but I do think you're spot on. I think Yale is the team to beat, and they will be the team to not only win the conference, but punch a ticket when it comes time for March. We got 2 MACs. We're going to go with the MAC with 2 A's. What's your thoughts on the MAAC?
It'll look different with no Tim Cluse, no Rick Pitino. That was a smooth transition for Iona to go from Tim Cluse, just a consistent winner who had a lot of good things going for that program, to Rick Pitino, one of the best coaches of all time. Without a question, you can think what you want about him, but that man's a winner. He's going to do that at St. John's, of course. And now you have Tobin Anderson, who led Fairleigh Dickinson to a 16-1 upset. His teams are going to pressure you defensively. They're going to get up there. He has some talent with Joel Brown coming over from Cal. Weza Panzo from Stetson, Greg Gordon from Dyersburg State at the JUCO level. Osborne Shema is back. I think Iona is going to be a real competitor to win that league once again. It's one of the 3 guarantees in life. Iona is going to win the MAC. Is one of those 3. Siena, though, I think that's actually my pick to win the league, so I'm going against one of the guarantees. Mike Ely is an absolute stud. Athletic, can really shoot it. Coach Carm's guard factory continues to hum at a high level. You go from Jalen Pickett to Javion McCollum to now Mike Ely. I think Ely's going to be an absolute stud this season. He showed a lot of flashes as a freshman. You can just see that he has it in him where he's going to develop into a superstar. What do you think about the MAC with 2 A's?
Yeah, I think Kevin Sweeney will be really happy with your pick. He is
he's probably going to find a way. He's probably going to find a way to rattle off like Siena's 12th man and be like, he's an average 15 points a game. That's what he's going to say.
He's definitely got more Siena stats than anyone else I know, and rightfully so. That's his hometown. He grew up watching that team. Coach Carm it's his year. He's done a good job there, and obviously Siena is one of the jobs in this conference that traditionally has had a lot of success, and I think it's their year. Eli being a big reason why, with his ability to lead the way. I'm really excited to see what Tobin Anderson does. Iona, I don't know what the other 2 guarantees are. I don't know if you got into that, but you said there's 3 guarantees, so we have to get to the other 2 later. But
we'll have to get into them, man.
I don't know if Iona necessarily wins the conference, but they are as good as anyone when it comes to March, just by seeing how Tobin Anderson and the world got to see how he led his team in March when it comes to this tournament last year to get this job. I think that's just a team that you want to always keep an eye on because they have a tradition, they have talent, they have players back. So I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what he does over at Iona in his new home. Let's go with the other MAC, the MAC.
Single A MAC.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about Akron Zips. I know you're a fan of Kent State as well in Ohio.
I am. Yep.
Who else do you like that's not in Ohio, and what do you like about the Ohio teams?
I mean, this conference runs through Ohio. All the stud teams come from that state. My dad was also from Ohio, so shout out to Ohio.
Shout out to
from
Pop.
Dayton. He's from Dayton, Ohio. So let's go with let's go with some of the Ohio teams here. Ohio Bobcats. They're going to be really good once again with AJ Brown again, another coach with the guard factory. Jeff Bowles. We talked about it last episode. AJ Brown's just the next guy in that. Him and Jalen Hunter could lead them to a conference title. Akron is my pick here to win the league because of Enrique Freeman and Ali. But Kent State is not a team to forget about. They have Sullinger. He's a nephew of Jared Sullinger. I think he's a nephew, something like that. He's going to be a really solid player, though. He was a sixth man of the year in this league. He's quick. He has a great way to create his shots. He's just a tough dude to stop with that quickness. And then Chris Payton ended up being a first-team All-Selection in this league. He's going to be a double-double guy this year. Great rebounder, good athlete, good defender. He's not like 6'11", so it's interesting to see him defend guys like Enrique Freeman, but his activity level and his defensive ability and his length is what makes him a really good player. He just is always active. He's never a dude that's going to be stationary. So I think Kent State's going to be competitive. And then Northern Illinois is a real sleeper in this league. I was surprised to see them pick fifth in the preseason, but that's around where I have them too. They have some real scorers. You have Keyshawn Williams. He's back after being hurt last year. David Coit. I think he deserved to be on the first team all preseason. And then Philmon Gebrewit coming over from DePaul. That's a guy that averaged like 8 at DePaul, but he's 6'7", can really shoot it. He's going to unlock some things for this offense this season.
Yeah, I mean, you said it best. It runs through Ohio. I mentioned about Akron being a surprise team. I think that's still the team that can not only do elite things in this conference, but I think they have a team. They are a team that can make some national noise. This is another one of those leagues that they do beat up on each other, so you don't necessarily get the chance to get those signature wins in conference. But I think if Akron can make some noise in that non-conference, they may go into conference play at some point and even be able to earn some of that top 25 ranking that very few mid-majors are able to do during the regular season. Looking forward to watching the single A MAC.
1A. Yeah, can't put too many A's.
Let's go with the MEAC. Let's talk a little bit about some HBCU hoops. This conference has had some rotating teams at the top. Norfolk State has been under Coach Jones has been one of the prides of this conference, but Howard snuck in last year and got a conference championship. Who do you like in the MEAC?
Howard's losing some big pieces from that team with Steve Settle transferring, Elijah Hawkins transferring. I'm just going to go with the level of consistency from Coach Robert Jones over there at Norfolk State. They also lose some key pieces, but the way he's been able to consistently win puts them over the top for me. I think the thing about the MEAC compared to some of the other leagues in college basketball is that there's just so much turnover in this league from one year to another that it's tough to really know who's going to hold up that trophy at the end of the season, hang a banner. But I think Robert Jones, no matter what, has just been able to churn out winners, and I think he's going to have another one with Norfolk State this year. What do you got?
Yeah, I mean, Howard still has some talented guys. Jelani Williams and Shai Odom definitely put you in the conversation to be right.
Marcus Dockery.
Yeah, there you go. So very talented roster. Love what they've done there with the staff and just making that jump last year to winning that championship. Obviously, Norfolk State, I think you're right. I'm biased towards Coach Jones. I've been able to go to practice. I've been able to see games. I've coached against him when I was back in college coaching, and I've been able to see it up close. We did a little bit of a documentary on them a few years ago, and the job that he's done, and just watching it from up close and from afar. They don't have Joe Bryant anymore. They don't have Chris Bankston, who are two of the best players that they had last year. But I do think he's a guy that's been a model of consistency, and there are always some surprises. But I do think that those two teams will be the ones at the top, and I'm going to give the slight edge to Norfolk State for next year's conference championship.
Yep, the Missouri Valley is next. We've already talked about this league in pretty good depth. Drake, Bradley, the two teams to really watch there. Northern Iowa gets Bowen Bourne back. He's going to be a huge piece for the Panthers in this league. What do you think about the Valley?
Yeah, the Valley is one of the best mid-major leagues, even though things have changed, even though teams have left and teams have come in. I definitely think this is still one of those leagues that at the top, you're looking at teams that can get in and teams that can get in and win a game or win games in the tournament. Missouri State's a team we didn't talk about as much along with Northern Iowa, but Missouri State has been in that top 2 to 4 for the last handful of years. And Coach Dana Ford's done a great job there with the program. So they're one of those teams that could make a jump. Indiana State also and Belmont, those teams that win 20 games a year, that are able to always be in the conversation. I think Indiana State's done a great job with their program and how they built it under their new coach. And then Belmont's just another one of those teams that what you're going to get. They're going to compete at a high level. They're going to be tough, smart, not beat themselves. And then Murray State, I think, is one of those teams that, obviously coach coming back, making a return. Shout out to Field of 68.
Yep.
Do you call it an alum?
Steve
Yeah, Steve Prohm. Do you call it an alum? Do you call it a form? I don't know.
I would say alum, a legend of the Field of 68. Steve Prohm is.
Yeah, Steve Prohm, and obviously he knows what it takes to win at Murray State. The times have changed. The transfer portal and NIL does change mid-major basketball a lot, but Murray State's a place that is about winning, and I think they got it going a little bit last year and showed some flashes. Hopefully now that he's had a full offseason to be able to recruit, I'm looking forward to seeing what Murray State does as well. But love the Missouri Valley, some great basketball. If you love basketball, you love watching Missouri Valley basketball because it's just well-coached league, high skill, high talent, and looking forward again. I think Drake is the team. I think Bradley is next, and looking forward to seeing how everyone else kind of shows up in the Missouri Valley. What about the NEC going back East Coast? What's your thoughts?
Not as exciting. Obviously, Fairleigh Dickinson, they won a tournament game. But a lot of pieces from this league are moving on. Lemoyne, the Dolphins are coming in.
Yep.
FDU, though, losing Tobin Anderson. Merrimack loses a lot of pieces. St. Francis lost Josh Cohen. Wagner's lost some pieces. Stonehill gets Max Zagorowski back. It's a really up-in-the-air league. Like, I don't have a strong lean. Sacred Heart is going to be a really good team. They get Joey Riley back, their big-time shooter. They also get Nico Gillette back, who's just – the way he plays is just so unique because he's a big dude, but he can handle it. He's a great rebounder. He just does a lot of things well, and he's a positional mismatch for a lot of teams because he has the size and the skill of a guard, but he can play the front court positions because he's 230 plus pounds. So he's going to be a really good player in this league, possibly the player of the year in the conference. But overall, not a ton to talk about excitingly in this conference, but Sacred Heart should be pretty good.
Yeah, I'm just looking forward to see kind of a wide open league. As you mentioned, not a lot to truly dive into at this point. Just excited to kind of see as it goes and see who emerges as some of the teams or the team in that league. OVC, the Ohio Valley Conference. What is your thoughts on whether it's Morehead State, whether it's SIUE, Tennessee State? What is your thoughts on this league?
It was Morehead State initially until Mark Freeman went down with a season-ending injury already. The preseason player of the year in the league, the reigning player of the year in the league. Preston Spradlin finds a way to win usually. He lost Janai Broom and still managed to win a regular season title the following year. Drew Thelwell is a name to really watch here as a guy who could replace Freeman. So I'm going to go with the SIUE to win the league, though. Rayshawn Taylor and Polo Minor, that's the best guard duo in the league, and I love good guards. Those two are going to be really difficult to stop this season.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to see Tennessee State making the next jump. Won 18 games last year, 10 conference games, the healthiest they've been under Coach Penny Collins. And I think they have enough talent, especially when you talk about what you just mentioned in the preseason player of the year going down. I think Tennessee State with Marcus Fitzgerald and Christian Brown and the progress that they made last year, excited to see if they can make the next jump to really put themselves in a position where they can be cutting down nets, whether it's regular season or when it comes down to March.
Patriot League, Colgate next. Any thoughts? I don't think you really have to get too much into it. I mean, it's Colgate every year. Come on.
Colgate has definitely made themselves a pretty special conversation piece in that one. I don't have a lot to argue with you on that one. What do you got next?
Moving on to the Southern Conference here. I'm going with Furman once again. Bob Ritchie. He did lose a lot of pieces, but Alex Williams seems like the next guy. Obviously, JP McGee is going to be that guy too, but they build from within. They're a lot different than what a lot of programs do. Furman and Liberty are kind of old school in the sense that they build from within rather than just going and getting 8 dudes from the portal. Obviously, both ways work to a certain level, but being able to build your guys from within, develop them, they're willing to sit back and watch the other guys continue to thrive while they grow. That's JP McGee, that's Alex Williams, that's Ben Vanderwall. That is Marcus Foster. All those dudes are going to be huge pieces for Furman this season as they try to get to back-to-back tournaments. But UNCG, they're tough defensively. They get a lot of pieces back from last year. And then Sanford gets Jermaine Marshall back. He's an absolute stud. Add Rylan Jones to run your point guard position. I think they'll be a little more cohesive this season. Quest Glover was a guy, a bit of a ball stopper, really good player, but he was a bit of a ball stopper. And I think Bucky McMillan's going to have a little bit more ball movement than he may have had last season with Glover at the helm. But what do you think about the SoCon?
Yeah, I think you nailed that up pretty well. We've kind of talked about some of the other teams, Western Carolina and others in this league. And I think you summed it up well that we can move to the Southland in one conference we haven't touched on really at all just yet in the new arrival of Coach Will Wade. The thing about McNeese, we know Will Wade can coach. We know he can recruit. The new style of college basketball with NIL, with the transfer portal, fits a guy like Will Wade perfectly, whether you like him, whether you agree with how things have gone.
He doesn't care, though. That's the thing. Like, he's a dude that does not care what you think.
We mentioned
in a good way.
We mentioned Bob Knight earlier, and I'm not saying coaching style that they're similar, but Bob Knight has the quote of, when I pass, I hope they bury me face down so my critics can kiss my you-know-what.
Yeah.
Will Wade has a little bit of that in him, or a lot of it. So the thing about –
and he admit that, too. That's the thing.
Absolutely. The thing about them in these Cowboys is the conference tournament is hosted in Lake Charles on their home campus, which gives them a great opportunity in March. They're going to have a talented roster. He's already proven that with how he's recruited. He has one of the best players coming back in Shoemake. Got Shahada Wells to come over, who was at UTA, then was at TCU. Really talented JUCO All-American from UT Tyler. So, yeah, definitely looking forward for them to be the team to beat in that conference just because of sheer talent and coaching alone. But New Orleans is really good, and I love what they did last year in the tournament. I got to call some games in the conference tournament in Lake Charles. Jordan Johnson is just
bucket.
Man, you said it well. He's one of the best.
Pull it from the parking lot.
Ball. He's gotta. It's hard to compare it because obviously we know how elite Steph Curry is, but he is a poor man's version of that because he's so elite from three, and you try to run him off the line, and he does such a great job being able to finish and get into the lane or get to the foul line. And they have so much toughness around him. It's almost like Jordan Johnson playing on a team full of Draymond Greens, if you will. He's just got a bunch of tough, rugged, hard-nosed guys that are blue-collar around him, and he's able to just kind of fly around. If he's able to stay healthy, New Orleans is as good as anybody in this league. I love Coach Kiefer and what he's done at Southeastern. Definitely has toughness, has talent. He's done a great job recruiting. Every year, you got a guy like Boogie Ellis last year. I believe his name was Boogie Anderson last year.
Boogie Anderson, yeah.
Boogie Anderson, who nobody really knew who that person was or who that name was, and he was one of the better players in the league that transferred in. So I love his ability to be able to recruit and kind of identify talent and have that blue-collar mentality. It's a little different now without having Texas A&M Corpus Christi. I think they're picked really low. They lost a lot of guys.
They lost a lot.
They lost a lot of guys in the portal. They lost coach in the portal. That does make it hard. Whether we call it the coaches portal or not, they lost coach in the portal too. But I do want to send some prayers and condolences. I have a former player in this conference and Coach Jared Von Rosenberg, who is going through a really challenging health battle with his wife's health. She's been in the hospital and is in some relatively, I think she's been in ICU. So prayers up to him and his family. They have a GoFundMe on the Texas A&M Commerce page that's connected to Coach Von Rosenberg and his family. So prayers out there. And then lastly, the new coach at Northwestern State. I love who they hired. They hired a JUCO guy and Rick Cabrera who can put rosters together. He can bring talent. And I love what Corey Gibson, we've already talked about him and what he did last year. And I think Northwestern State will be one of the top 4 teams in this league right away with just the job that he's going to do there. And I think Lamar Cardinals is probably the sneaky team in this league. No one's really talking about or thinking about, but I think they will do a great job making that next jump that they haven't quite been able to make yet, changing leagues and having some turnover, some roster turnover. I think Alvin Brooks will get the Cardinals going this year in the South.
Moving on here to the SWAC, it's been Texas Southern's league. It seems like no matter what happens in the regular season, they always find a way to end up winning the conference tournament, playing in that first four, and usually putting on a pretty good show. What do you think about the SWAC?
Yeah, two leagues left after this. You mentioned this before. I think Jackson State, unfortunately, has had a devastating injury to their best player. So doesn't
Deshaun Ruffin.
Yeah, doesn't look like Ruffin's going to be playing this season, unfortunately. What I love about this league, I mean, one, you got to give credit to Landon Bussey and what he's done at Alcorn State, not a place that's traditionally won. He's won 2 championships now in that league, I believe in 3 years, if I'm not mistaken, since he's been there. So outstanding job. So I would put them towards the top of the league. Johnny Jones, as you said, always has that magic in March, whether it's regular season or whether it's tournament. They're finding a way. I think Graham done a terrific job. Coach Smith at Prairie View is always good. I picked this in a different segment last week that we did our first episode. I think Arkansas Pine Bluff is a team that's going to make a breakout with Coach Solomon Bozeman. Has the pieces. He's excited about his squad. He's made those incremental jumps. And every year in this league, there's usually somebody that emerges that wasn't expected, kind of like you talked about the MEAC. You never quite know who is picking up who from the transfer portal and who's going to end up hitting the floor. But always entertaining basketball and always a great watch to be able to see what happens in the SWAC. 2 leagues left, Sunbelt and the WAC. We'll go Sunbelt first.
The most competitive mid-major league in America, I would say.
We might have missed one more. There may be the Summit as well.
But the WAC. Yeah, let's go Sunbelt.
Sunbelt.
Yeah, Sunbelt, the most competitive conference in college basketball at the mid-major level, because I think last year was Southern Miss and like Marshall. They were all in the mix, and there was like between 1 through 7, it was like 2 games separating them. Like, it's such a small window of difference between those teams. But James Madison is who I'm going to go with to win this league this year, because you get your stud back with Terrence Edwards. He's going to develop into one of the best players in this league. And you had TJ Bickerstaff from Boston College, who originally came from Drexel, played in the tournament with them. He's athletic. He's going to be a double-double machine for this James Madison team. And then you had Mike Green coming over from Robert Morris originally with Bryant. So they did a really good job in the portal to supplement some of their losses, help out Terrence Edwards, who's going to really come into his own this year. South Alabama's always pretty consistent. Richie Riley is a similar style of recruiting to Pat Kelsey in a sense, with the way he's able to hit the D2 level. Samuel Tate coming in from the D2 level. They had Maxwell Land, a D1 transfer that can shoot the basketball. I think they'll be pretty solid this season. But the one team I'm really monitoring is Arkansas State under Brian Hodgson. He just added for the class of 2024 a top 100 recruit, and he has some dudes this year too that can really go. You get Terrence Ford back. You add Darian Ford from Arkansas. And then you got some front court players with LaQuill Hardnett from Buffalo and DeAndre Dominguez from UMass. Those are 2 athletic dudes that can shoot the basketball from outside, and that's clear that's what Hodgson wants to do. He comes from the Nate Oates tree of coaching, and he's going to have a similar style of play to what Oates does. He wants athletic dudes that can shoot the basketball. He's going to have a lot of 3-point shots going up there, some analytical thoughts, and I think Arkansas State's going to be a real surprise team in this league.
Yeah, I mean, you hit on a lot of stuff. I won't go too long into depth, but 14 teams in this conference.
A lot of them.
6 teams finished within 3 games of Southern Miss last year. That shows how competitive of a race and how close of the margin, as you mentioned. Southern Miss shocked everybody last year with an absolutely incredible year. 25.
Austin Crowley, a stud.
Yeah, absolute baller. 25-8. Their head coach won in the Southland, won a national championship in JUCO. So knows how to win. Some new teams in this league. So it gets even more interesting with some of the aspects of the Sun Belt or within the last couple of years. And then I think there was 4 teams in the top 100 in the net. So I'm just excited to follow this conference because, as you said, one of the more competitive conferences in all of college basketball doesn't get talked about enough. And we will go to the Summit and the WAC, and we will close out episode 2. What's your thoughts? No more No more Paul Mills. No
Nope.
more Oral
No more
Roberts.
Grant Nelson.
No more Britt Nelson. No more Max. Mad
A-Smith.
Max. Yes, A. Smith.
Yep.
So, what does this league look like after what has been the consistent things in this league? What does this league look like now?
I like Oral Roberts is the second best team, but South Dakota State is a class to this league, and that's the way it was before Oral Roberts snuck in and made things happen. But South Dakota State's just so consistent. You have Zeke Mayo, who is one of the better guards in mid-major college basketball. You add some pieces from the portal, and Nate Barnhart, he should be pretty good coming over from Wyoming, a 7-foot stretch forward. You get William Kyle as a sophomore, Luke Apple, who's an all first team selection in the preseason. Big lefty that can shoot it from outside. He's a good driver. I think he had like a 40-point game against Oral Roberts a couple of years ago. Missed last year with injury, but he's a really skilled big man to fit in the system. But the underrated team I'm going to talk about here is North Dakota. They have a really good core this season with BJ Omot coming back. Sante Sartsidze, he should be pretty good this season as the partner to Omot. Eli King coming over from Iowa State, Trayson Eaglestaff, and if Tyree Iheanacho gets his waiver, the James Madison transfer, who initially started at North Dakota, I think they have a really good core. Their rotation isn't super deep, but that starting lineup can compete with anybody in this conference.
Yeah, a lot of buckets happening in this league. This is an offensive.
Defense is not there.
Yeah, this is an offensive league. I wouldn't say defense is not there. I won't say that, but you might be right.
It's not there.
There's a lot of buckets happening in this league at a high level. I love.
You could get a bucket in this league. Come on now.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think the better way to put it is I could help you get a bucket in this league. Is probably a better way to put it. That's how offensive minded it is. And those who don't know Sean Paul's game, he'll talk about that in another episode. Don't worry about that.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to talk about my 3-point shooting, ask Kevin Sweeney. He knows I can get buckets. I sent him a video a couple years ago. We know what that's like. So
I like it. Yeah, Omaha returns the most minutes in the country. I like the idea of Coach Crutchfield, who's such a proven winner and what he's done as an assistant coach, being a second-year head coach along with Marvin Menzies and Eric Peterson, those second-year head coaches emerging and kind of getting their foundation laid, and now they get to build on top of that foundation. There's always some surprises when you're able to have that continuity. So excited about those two teams, and I think St. Thomas kind of in a random, non-appreciated way in this league made a jump from Division III. We talked about Bellarmine before. St. Thomas hasn't won a championship by any means yet in this league, but they won 19 games last year as a team that only in their second year Division I from being a Division III, and really doesn't do it through the portal, does it more through high school. So this league, if you like offensive basketball, great league to follow, and a lot of skilled and highly talented guys as far as putting the ball in the hole in this league. And then in our last prediction league, we got the WAC.
A lot more defense here in this league.
There's a lot more grit and grind going on in the WAC. We've talked a lot about Grand Canyon. I think this is a special Grand Canyon team. I have no problem saying that. Put me on record. They won 24 games last year. I think they are loaded. If they are able to stay healthy, I just think this team really has a chance to be a top 25 ball club and be a fantastic team to watch and follow. Who else do you like in this league, and what excites you about the WAC?
I like Stephen F. Austin. Talk about consistency. Kyle Keller is a consistent winner, carried on what Brad Underwood did there. Just they play the same way every season. They're going to be tough. They're going to force turnovers. They're going to turn it over a ton too, but they're going to play fast. They're going to get in your face. They're not going to let you get easy shots, but they're going to gamble. They're going to try to force turnovers. They want to play in a full court setting instead of a half court setting. And if you're going to turn the ball over, usually Stephen F. Austin's going to win that kind of game. But AJ Kajus, he fits his style perfectly with his speed, his athleticism, his strength. He's a great player in this league. He's going to be a big-time player for Stephen F. Austin. Latrell Jostle can shoot it. Day Hall is a big player down low. You have Jelani Stone coming over from Cal Baptist. It's just tough to ignore how consistent Stephen F. Austin is. So I think they'll be right there. But when you're facing a team like Grand Canyon that has those guards who aren't going to turn it over, that's a pretty nightmarish matchup for Stephen F. Austin. But overall, they deserve that kind of respect where we're mentioning them in this kind of setting.
Yeah, I think Seattle's another one of those teams. They've proven they can win a championship in this league. won 20 games again last year. I think Seattle definitely one of the top 3 teams in the league. And then naturally, some of the Texas teams, and me being biased,
Mhm.
Brett Tanner and Abilene Christian has won big. They didn't have as healthy of a season and didn't kind of finish the season last year the way that they hoped. Curious to see how they bounce back. They're usually one of the better defensive teams in the country and kind of have that grind style of play. And then UT Arlington jumping in, Coach KT Turner, a former coach from Kentucky. He's a guy who has a ton of roots recruiting high-level players. He's going to do that at a great rate, and he's already done that since he's been here. So I think he's infused this roster with enough talent that they'll have a chance to compete in the top half of the league, top 4 or 5. 11 teams in this league, a deep league. But again, I think Grand Canyon has a chance to have a special mid-major year, and a team people might get tired of hearing us talk about because they may
We'll
have
talk about them plenty, no doubt.
yeah, if they can stay healthy, which I believe they will, Coach Drew and his staff, Coach Walker and the crew, they will be a team to really watch this season. And that'll do it for our mid-major conference by conference preview. The season starts Monday. What's your final thoughts on going into the mid-major season this season with Field of 68?
It's going to be fun. We're going to talk a lot about these teams throughout the season. Maybe I'll toss a bold prediction out here for those who are watching. I'll say Yale's going to the Sweet 16. So for those who are curious, Yale's going to go to the Sweet 16. Matt Noling, Bez Mbang, they're one of the best defensive teams in America. They have a great point guard, like I said, in Mbang. They're going to be a good team. Yale Sweet 16. That's my prediction.
Is that an actual bold prediction, or is that?
Oh yeah, no, it's my prediction. No.
Okay,
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah. So thanks everybody for watching. If you enjoyed, you get that little bold prediction there at the end. What about you, Brian? What do you got to sign off with?
Yeah, I'm just looking forward to a lot of new conference things going on, teams moving around. Always love to see the transfers. We all know the transfers that did well last year that move up, but the stories that I almost love, maybe even more, are the transfers of the resurgence
down.
that went high that come back down. You're like, oh yeah, that dude could really play. You love those. Then you also just love those returning stories of the teams and the players, like an FAU, like I used this example earlier, not quite in the mid-major realm of this, but Mountain West, of an Isaiah Stevens in this day and age, coming back to college, a 5th year in a row at the same school when he could play anywhere in the country. You just love those kind of stories. So, excuse me, lots of great storylines. Can't wait.
No doubt. Thanks to everybody for watching. And until next time, Sean Paul, Brian Burton will be back with episode